Alberta AGM, we've got to talk about the Alberta, the UCP All General Meeting and what happened with Danielle Smith. And there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to talk about the ballad of Pnut the Squirrel, because Pnut the Squirrel was kidnapped and murdered by the state of New York for daring to be the pet of Trump supporters. Basically is how the whole thing has gone down. And this is the October surprise. This is the very late October surprise. But this is that galvanizing thing, that thing that Democrats look at and go, oh, no. And then they vote Trump, right? And it's very, very crazy. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Elon Musk is highlighting the plight of Pnut. And he says, government overreach kidnapped an orphan squirrel and executed him. Yes, Catherine says this is going to decide the election, isn't it? And the Associated Press is reporting orphan squirrel who became social media star was euthanized after being seized from home. And there's Pnut there wearing a cowboy hat. And I mean, the videos of this creature are like, they're funny and they're cute, and like they raised it because they found it as an orphan and a baby, and so it became their pet. And the state of New York kidnapped and killed it. And so TMZ is reporting the owners of Pnut the Squirrel are going nuclear on government officials in New York, accusing the state of abusing power and wasting taxpayer funds to seize and kill their pet. Watch their full interview on TMZ Live here. And Ian says if Pnut the Squirrel was an illegal immigrant who was dealing fentanyl and raping women, New York Democrats would give him $5,000 and a cell phone. So that's sadly true, right? Like, jeepers creepers, what has happened to our society? They also had a pet raccoon named Fred. The raccoon was also killed and was kidnapped and killed by the officials. So that's terrible. And they're distraught. They're upset, right? And they're giving interviews to TMZ. The memes that this is generating are hilarious is one, but galvanizing is another, right? There are lots of ways to describe it. Scott shares this one. This is from Inglourious Bastards. That milk scene's really tense, right? The milk scene at the beginning of Inglourious Bastards where the Inquisitor is coming and he knows that there's people there that he's looking for, and the guy who's housing them knows that they're there, and they share milk, and it's like this whole dance, and it's very tense. And then at the end, right? So like the squirrel is filling that role, right? You're sheltering a squirrel, are you not? So it's very interesting. The architect says if they'll raid your home to kill a squirrel, do you really think they'll hesitate to kill you and your family? They're just waiting for the green light. Man, again, I feel like that's probably true. iSource News says Trump champions Pnut the Squirrel, rides wave of outrage after New York authorities use strongman tactics to euthanize celebrity pet. And so here is Trump's official statement on Pnut the Squirrel. And he says, there have been horrible reports out of New York, my former home state, where state environmental agents raided the home of Mark Longo and his wife. Mark was taken into custody for hours while officials searched his home and eventually took two of their pets, Fred the raccoon and Pnut the Squirrel. These animals were later executed by the state of New York. New York authorities, under the terrible governor, put more effort into finding and eliminating a squirrel who is innocent by all accounts than they do to control the unchecked illegal immigrants who have flooded into the state. If Pnut could have told them that he was from Mexico, they would have sent him on his way and given him a hotel room and a $500 gift card to Buddy Squirrel. Instead, he was taken from his family. Very sad and a complete waste of resources. When we win, we will get our priorities in order and make America great again. So there you go. Man, when you get served lemons, make lemonade, right? Trump is on Pnut's side. And so America AF says, as a lifelong Democrat, Pnut was the last straw. I will officially be voting for Donald Trump. And so Pnut is sitting over a map of the United States that has Republicans winning 538 electoral college votes and Democrats winning none, right? So Reagan, take that. And so we'll see. Is Pnut going to galvanize the electoral base for Donald Trump? Maybe. Just maybe. Andrew says, this video was planned for organic social only, but has now garnered over 60 million views in 24 hours due to an overwhelming response. Now, like what they did to Pnut is kind of what they'll do to your average run-of-the-mill person if that run-of-the-mill person steps out of line and, is a squirrel or something like that, right? Where they don't want squirrels as pets. But if you try and stand up to these people, if you try and stop what's happening through playing their game, what you're going to get is headwinds. That means pushback. That means people doing stuff to you. What could that look like? Well, Donald Trump has given us a very, very clear picture, and you can chunk it out in phases, right? This video does all of that. So it's a minute long, worthwhile. Here we go.
Think about all they've done to Donald Trump. First, it was hoaxes, witch hunts, and impeachments. Then it was FBI raids, courtrooms, and mugshots. Finally, it was bullets in a Pennsylvania field. And after all that, this man stood up with blood draining down his face, pumped his fists in the air, and told us to fight. Fight. Fight.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And we will make America great again.
We know what they think of us.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
So if Donald Trump can get through all of that, we can get out to vote.
There you go. Effective ad, I think, right? Pretty good. And it's very interesting what they'll do to you if you stand up against them. Here's Donald Trump. Again, I said we're, 2 days out from the election. It's the 5th. We're the 3rd today. And Donald Trump, I showed this clip the other day, but I'll show it again because it's so important. Amuse highlights this. Trump predicted that right before the election, the polls would come out against him. And he was right yet again. I've got 2 polls. Very, very influential polls to show you right after we look at this. But Donald Trump telling you, don't believe the polls. Never believe the polls. The polls are there to influence the election, not to inform the voter. Here's Donald Trump.
If I did, I wouldn't answer. I'm busy.
You know how polls are done? I'm going to get myself in trouble. But so I really don't believe too much in them. So
well, 2016 taught a lot of people about the ineffective.
Well, they were very
use of
ineffective because
polls.
I thought I was doing well. I'd go to a place and I'd have 30, 40,000 people. Hillary would go, they have 500 people, and they tell me I'm going to lose. I said, why am I going to lose? I had 40,000 people. She had 200 people. But, you know, I have a theory. These pollsters, they charge you a lot of money, too. You know, they charge you $500,000 to do some stupid poll, and they interview like 251 people. I don't think they interview them in many cases. I don't want to get myself in too much trouble.
You think it's bullshit?
No, I think they sit there, they make a deal, they get $500,000, and they say, Trump's leading 51-49. They announce it, and everybody says, "Oh." Do you understand? I don't think they. I think in a lot. Look, I'm a very common sense person. I think that they probably don't always poll. Some of them probably never poll. What's the difference between 49-51 and 47.5?
Well, it's also a tiny percentage of the population. I don't think it's representative of the overall population. I just don't think
I don't know
is.
of one person in my whole life that ever got called by a pollster.
Exactly. That's my point. So
there you go. So polls, kind of fake, kind of made up a little bit, right? And this I wanted to show you, and it should have been the next tab, but Trump mentioned, he said, I have 40,000 people at my rallies. Hillary had 200. How am I losing? There's no way I'm losing. It doesn't make any sense. And here's Kamala Harris. And Benny says, I'm inside the official Kamala Harris rally going on right now in Tampa, rally in quotes, Florida. Hillary Clinton is about to take the stage. The tiny event room is half empty. There are maybe 200 people here. There is zero energy, lots of staff panic. This is a dying campaign. Watch. So this is 10 seconds of Kamala's rally. Yep, nobody there, right? And that's, if they can't get 200 people to come out, that's pretty incredible, right? Here's Colin Rugg and the polls coming out just before the election, 2 days out, turning for Harris, right? A new Ann Seltzer poll shows Kamala Harris leading by 3 points in Iowa. No. 47 for Harris, 44 for Trump. The same poll had Trump leading Biden by 18 points in June, an unbelievable 21-point swing. I said this exact quote 2 days ago, quote, I'm seeing a coordinated left-wing operation claiming there is a momentum shift towards Harris. I've seen this on X, TT, Instagram, and you're now seeing it in the media. It's ramped up in the past few days. It's fake. They're creating a narrative that Kamala Harris is seeing a surprising surge in support. This is only to discourage right-wingers from voting. They do this every election, and they're doing it now. So the same poll claims Harris gained 30 points with seniors compared to their Biden 2020 poll. Think with your head. So don't listen to these people. Here is this thread has been updated since the beginning of the election, I guess. This is September. This is July. This is I don't know what this is. This one is this is the beginning, July 14th. So USA presidential election 2024 betting. So this is the betting books and how much odds for Trump winning. And Trump's like 66%, 64%. Trump is currently in the betting world, 64% to win. And the factors constraining this include he's old and he might die, events, global events for Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes through. And so like here is, we'll just take a couple of examples. This is October 8th. That's not even that long ago, but Trump has moved from 48 3 weeks ago to 51 today. Apparently this is newsworthy. It's not even really that newsworthy. He says Trump up to 54, October 11. McDonald's footage is a vote winner. Trump tightens to 59. And basically saying if he makes it to election day, and the fraud is relatively limited, that's a landslide. Like he's in landslide territory, and basically everybody knows it. And we'll come back down to where it is now. And he says, how about that? The longer Trump stays alive, the shorter his odds get. He's at 65% on October 29th. And then he says, I can offer no tangible explanation for this market move. Trump down to 55. They're listening to the Democrat machine. Somebody's paid off somebody to short his odds a little bit, right? And so weird. But Trump's well past landslide territory at 65%. Like 65%, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. He's going to win California, right? If the fraud is minimal. 200 people showed up, right? That's not a campaign with momentum. It's just not. Not. Donald Trump says, this is real Donald Trump. He says, if Kamala wins, you are 3 days away from the start of a 1929 style economic depression, just like Canada's got. If I win, Trump says, you're 3 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, and the brightest economic future the world has ever seen. Kamala's inflation nightmare has cost the typical American family $30,000 in higher prices, and now she wants to impose the largest tax hike in American history and raise your taxes by $3,000 a year. I will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security benefits. How about no income tax? How about that? No income tax. I think that's what we should do, because we could run the whole economy on tariffs, and we could cut spending for where we can't cover with tariffs. Like, I think that's such a good idea. And I think it would benefit everybody, says that one economist I showed you. But I think I'd investigate before actioning it. But I think if that's true, it's worth actioning for sure. Real Robert says, and we have found that 10,000 plus illegal aliens are using the exact same Social Security number voted in the Arizona 2028 general election. And that's only the border state of Arizona. Saying illegals are not voting is like saying the border is secure. Just ask Adrian Fontes. He was one who registered them. So Elon Musk says another conspiracy theory turns out to be true. Strange that Arizona requires proof of citizenship for state, but not federal elections. So welfare offices in 49 states are handing out voter registrations. So these voter registrations and migrants are voting. And that's a Democrat strategy to head off a Donald Trump landslide, right? And I don't think they've got enough, but hey, man, they're importing a lot of people. There are a lot of people flooding into the country. And the reason, like, what they're promising is to vote on election day for access, right? Christie is responding to the Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood Reporter says, in a third video released in collaboration with the Harris-Walz team campaign, Harrison Ford noted that he doesn't agree with them on every single policy, nor does he think they're perfect. But these two people believe in the rule of law. So Harrison Ford is gone to Diddy parties. Harrison Ford has blackmail on him, and he is doing what he's told, or he's an idiot. So one of those things is true. We'll see. Who knows? Here's Joe Biden being weird as usual. America AF says Joe Biden speaking about Make America Great Again. These are the kind of guys you'd like to smack in the ass. Have you seen the women watching NFL football? I'm going to find a clip to play it after this because it's just weird. And
But I'm serious.
It's weird. Here's Joe Biden.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass. But I'm serious.
Everything about that is weird, right? I don't ever look at guys and think like, oh, I'm going to smack you in the ass. Guys I like, guys I don't like. That's not something that crosses my mind. I can't seem to find it, but the video is NFL announcers talking about plays, and it's women, like what you're watching while they're talking about the plays is women drinking wine and looking at each other like, what the heck did you say? Or just looking at the camera. There was one I saw of two women and one I saw of one woman. And like maybe there's a split screen with the actual play, but the guys are saying very sexually explicit things that you might hear in an adult video rather than a football game. And the women are saying like, oh, watching too many NFL games these days, like listening to the announcers. And anyway, it just struck me as funny, and I'm sorry that I can't find it, but I don't have the time to dig through Twitter right now. And my Ninja or my Google Foo is not returning any results. So anyway, it's a weird thing for Joe Biden to do. I digress. The Patriot Voice says you should absolutely be ready for the fireworks coming in the 75 days between Election Day at November 5th and Inauguration Day, January 20th. Without a doubt, it will be the most dangerous period of time in modern American history. Don't underestimate these communists. When Raskin says civil war conditions, he means exactly that. Remember that when we are celebrating a real Donald Trump victory or landslide, I pray, there will be a long fight ahead, and these people are rabid and desperate with nothing left to lose. So he's saying that this guy is saying that they're going to use whatever means necessary to invalidate a Trump win if Trump wins. Here we go.
It's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in civil war conditions.
So that'll be interesting to see if they don't ratify the election, if they don't do what they're supposed to do on January 6th because the person who won is somebody they don't like. Then what happens? Civil war conditions, he says. Table salt. Let's talk about drugs in Canada. It was faster than I thought. And I think finding out about Pnut was worthwhile. Table salt says $450 million worth of drugs on a 66-hectare compound. 100 plus firearms and explosives, 98 million doses of fentanyl, and tons of other drugs. And the RCMP arrest one guy with a total of 7 charges. What? Yeah. What? Right? Like that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? It doesn't fit. So, and the charges are importing, exporting controlled substance, possession for the purpose of trafficking, possession of a firearm without a license, possession non-firearm knowing possess non-firearm knowing unauthorized, making or possessing explosives, possession of firearm, etc., contrary to order, possession of firearm, etc., contrary to order. So weird, right? Like that seems outlandish. Julian Assange is weighing in. He says, surprise, surprise, all the fentanyl that has killed hundreds of thousands of North American children is coming from an Indo-Canadian gangsters in Canada. So, yay. Weird. And we seem to not care is not right, but the powers that be and the police don't seem to actually be willing or able to do their jobs. I saw footage of what went on here, and sorry that I don't have it on, like I don't have it tagged, but Toronto police are talking about crime that's going on in downtown Toronto, and they say today a stolen car turned Toronto's streets into a dangerous place once again. The police cruisers rammed, citizens were at risk, even a police horse was struck. Our officers are out here doing their part. When will our leaders do theirs? How much more can Toronto take? So there's a image with information as well. It says Toronto police cars rammed and horse struck while officers investigating a stolen truck. This afternoon, the streets of Toronto were once again a dangerous place because of irresponsible and completely reckless behavior of a person in a stolen vehicle. Not only did he ram into several police cruisers, but he struck a police horse and put several citizens at risk. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. Our horse, York, has been taken to a hospital as a precaution. Criminals stealing cars have no remorse and are putting the public and police at risk. While our members are making arrests and conducting investigations, our Prime Minister is bragging about decreased auto theft stats, and our mayor and the police service board are making us fight for every penny. Toronto is in trouble. How many incidents like this one have to happen before we get the help that we need? Our members and the public have had enough. Yep. I had a conversation with somebody who said crime was down, and I said it's just because they're not, like, the crimes aren't being listed anymore. Elon Musk makes this argument about San Francisco. The police don't show up. So his friends who were carjacked or something like that, carjacked or robbed at their car, one or the other, had been robbed before, but none of the incidents had ever made it into any of the statistics because police take so long to show up that nothing ever gets put on paper. And so the crime stats do appear to go down. If you look, the crime stats very close to zero, right? I mean, I don't know about Canada. I haven't looked, but in San Francisco, it looks like there's not a lot of crime, but there's a whole lot of crime, right? So the poop indicator, the poop street indicator is part of that. But like, again, it's one of those situations where the bad policies are causing these negative outcomes and nobody seems willing or able to make any kind of changes. Let's talk about the invasion ongoing very quickly. Senator Babette, who is and I'm probably saying that wrong, but I believe he's an Australian senator. He says, Australia must forever and always be a majority Christian nation. If that's not okay with you, pack your bags and leave. Right. We don't have anybody who is strongly championing any kind of Canadian course like that at all. And it seems like we have Sikh people coming in, and they're very strong with their religious ties. And we've got Hindu people coming in, and they're very much stronger than, I think, North American Christians to their religious ties. And we've got Muslim people coming in, and they're much stronger on their religious ties. And the Muslim people also have other aspects to that as well. And I mean, just looking at the United Kingdom, there's things that are concerning about that because it's religious, but it's also, there's other aspects as well. And so like we're importing all of this other stuff into Canada, and Justin Trudeau is saying Diwali is now a Canadian holiday thing. And I don't think that's appropriate, but we don't have anybody saying like, listen, Canada is a Christian nation and we want to keep it that way. Nobody's saying that. Canada's currently now a multicultural post-national state. And that's, I mean, I don't think that most people actually want that, right? And that's bad. If they do say they want it, I would question whether they understand what they're signing up for, right? And I mean, what they're signing up for. Well, we'll get there in just a minute, I think. Mark Anderson says government funding of NGOs and nonprofits should be entirely illegal. Elon Musk is highlighting this. Many of these NGOs are heavily funded by governments, which makes them a GNGO, self-licking ice cream cone, government NGO. Only way to break this is to elect politicians who will stop funding them. If you stop incentivizing, then people will stop doing those things because there won't be a payout. Right? Mostly. Elon Musk is responding to Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson's responding to Jacob. Jacob says the NGOs are such a scourge. And Mark says, if you don't like corporations, just wait until your death with organizations that are uncontained by a profit motive. So the governments aren't contained by money. They're just contained by government policies, I guess. So it's interesting how this policy has been, well, it's not just this. It's like another good example is the Arrive Scam app or the Green Slush Fund. It's like you found a way to make $1 million. If you make $1 million through nefarious means through the government, get away with it scot-free and nobody really notices, and $1 million is nothing in the day-to-day running of the government, right? So you make $1 million. Well, you want to make $66 million. Well, now you want to make $100 million, right? And so all of a sudden it's ballooning and ballooning and ballooning, and the beast just keeps getting bigger. And I mean, they kept getting away with it. And like, if Pierre Poilievre wasn't the leader of the Conservative Party, if it was still O'Toole, right? If the Conservatives hadn't changed the leadership after the trucker convoy, then we may never have known anything about any of this because nobody would have really been investigating. And if they had been investigating, I doubt O'Toole would have had the stones to bring it. So, I mean, it's very, very interesting if you ask me. Brittany says this is the new Canada. And so this is a City News report. Police don't show up, crime goes down. Here we go.
The chaos at Yonge and Dundas lasted for more than 2 hours before Toronto police came to disperse the crowd. In an email to City News, one witness told us he saw fireworks being launched from cars, heard car engines revving, and at least 400 people walking on Yonge Street while vehicles were attempting to get through. The witness adds the situation lasted for about 2 hours before he saw 3 police cars arrive and disperse the crowd. Another witness, Kevin, sent us a similar message saying there were massive crowds of people setting off fireworks until 2 a.m. And he says he spoke to police on scene who told him there weren't enough officers to safely make arrests.
There are not enough officers to safely make arrests. So we've just got to let this thing burn itself out, everybody. We're just going to let them hang out in Yonge and Dundas Square. Oh, I mean Sankofa Square. So it's Yonge and Dundas when they want it to be Yonge and Dundas, but okay, Scott Moe, let's talk about our grab bag of governance. And Scott Moe says, starting today, Sask Power will once again be eliminating the carbon tax for 35,000 customers who use electricity to heat their homes. Last year, this measure provided nearly $1.3 million in relief to people using electric heat. The carbon tax needs to be eliminated on everything for everyone, but until that happens, our government will continue to ensure fairness for Saskatchewan families. So there you go. That's what their plan is. Dr. Mike Moffat says, the city of Toronto has hiked development charges on the smallest forms of housing by 1,000%. Housing used disproportionately by younger or racialized and lower income residents. Yet municipal officials argue with a straight face that this is progressive. So the development charges used to be under $4,000 in 2009 and 10 and 11. And it starts to go up in 12, and then 13 it's higher, and 14 it's higher, and now it's $52,000 apparently in 2024. And in 2023, it doesn't give me the number for 2023, but it was under $40,000. So it's gone up by at least 12,000, maybe more, 13,000 at least, right? So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. The city shouldn't have that kind of power to create a situation where they're choosing what kind of houses get built because of the type of housing unit it is. And there's two lines, dwelling room or apartment, 0 to 1 bedroom development costs. So this is probably for apartment buildings, but still wild, unbelievable costs, right? Here's Dan McTeague, and they're talking about dentists and the free dental package that the Liberal NDPs are rolling out. He says he's responding to Alan. Alan says, when will taxpayers be receiving a detailed breakdown of the cost of the actual dental care delivered versus costs associated with administering the program, including fees paid to Sun Life? And Dan McTeague says $15 billion is the estimated cost, and Canadian mooches give little thought to our growing deficit next year will be $46 billion just to service the $1.3 trillion debt that they voted for, the Liberal Green NDPs. It's not financially sustainable. Of course not. Ian says, like so many liberal socialist programs, we won't know the true cost for a long time. I practice dentistry in the public sector, and I'm constantly amazed about the duplicity in this plan. Good dental services are already available to low-income people. It's a $15 billion publicity stunt. And High Horse says, just like the school food program, it has already been available for low-income kids for as long as I can remember. Is it even a federal jurisdiction? It's not. And I worked in schools, and if kids didn't have food, the teachers and the staff in the school usually made that happen, and it was usually through donations, and like the schools took care of the kids who needed that kind of extra attention. And people know about the kids who need that extra attention. Everybody's aware. Anyway, Ian responds, dentists are licensed provincially, and there are numerous programs in Ontario that serve low-income people. In Hamilton, we have a free dental bus that drives around the city. There's a free dental clinic at the dental public health office. Trudeau's program is a $15 publicity stunt, and I think he's right. I think he's bang on. Jeffrey is responding to Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy says that on January 20th, the Trump White House will advise all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride from public water. Fluoride is an industrial waste associated with arthritis, bone fractures, bone cancer, IQ loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, and thyroid disease. I actually changed to Burt's Bees, the charcoal black one. Cousin Tom's, Uncle Tom's was okay, but ultimately I like the flavor on the Burt's Bees one, but I moved to toothpaste without fluoride because of Robert Kennedy. So that's weird, right? But his arguments kind of stand up in my opinion. So, and I don't think that I'm losing anything based on that. So it's very interesting what they've done, right? Like, you walk into the store where you're buying your toothpaste, and like you've got a wall of fluoridated toothpaste, and then you turn around and then there's no fluoride toothpaste, and there's less of them, but there's still a pretty good selection, I guess. But it's very, very interesting that it doesn't raise more suspicion at all. Anyway, Maxime Bernier, moving on, says Pierre Poilievre doesn't want to talk about it, and he won't do anything about immigration when he becomes the prime minister. We need the PPC to speak for people and keep pushing this issue. And he's got a meme with Pierre Poilievre, who's wearing a headscarf, who says, we need a carbon tax election, and everybody behind him saying immigration election. So there you go. We'll see. I don't know. Here is a bit of Vancouver news. This is before the Vancouver election had finished, I think, but it was published on November 1st. So this guy put this sign up before the Vancouver election happened, and it's only making news November 1st. So that's funny to me. The sign says, Eby will tell you, David Eby, who's the current premier of BC after winning re-election, razor thin majority, wink. Anyway, the sign says, Eby will tell you the Conservatives are far right, but neglects saying that the NDP is communist. And I think, like, looking at that, that's tit for tat. You know what I mean? If somebody's calling you far right, at least they could be as honest about where they stand on the political spectrum, which is far left communists, right? So CTV Vancouver is reporting Vancouver quietly proclaimed Chip Wilson Day as the billionaire installed a sign calling BC's NDP communist. So they were saying, yay, Chip Wilson's great. So the mayor showed up and like a couple of, no city councilors, just the mayor and one councillor, Brian Montague, are there, nobody else, right? So everybody loves Chip Wilson, and Chip Wilson doesn't like the communists in BC. Here's just a little bit of this.
Billionaire Chip Wilson is back in the spotlight, this time for a proclamation day from the city. It fell on the same day Wilson put up a sign outside his home, taking aim at the NDP during the election. As CTV's Isabella Zaffarisi reports, one city councillor wants to know why it wasn't publicized until now.
They became an election campaign talking point. Signs outside Lululemon founder Chip Wilson's home accusing the NDP of being communist.
I know when you are so rich that the Red Hot Chili Peppers play your birth.
Not addressing the content of the accusation, but pivoting and attacking the person delivering the criticism. So he could say, I'm not communist, but instead he says, Chip Wilson's way out of touch because he's so rich. Also, do you think it's because he was named Chip? If you have a child and you name them Alfred, are you surprised when they become a butler? And if you name them Chip, are you surprised when they become the founder of Lululemon and or an Abercrombie and Fitch model? Brittany says, moving on, let's talk about the Alberta. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful